This is the Thayer Podcast for Monday, January 15th, 2024. USInflationCalculator.com says that the difference between the Consumer Price Index, the CPI, and inflation is a source of confusion for many of us. The website explains that, at its easiest level, the Consumer Price Index is, in the U.S., used to calculate inflation. Let's look at their definitions. The Bureau of Labor Statistics of the U.S. Department of Labor defines the CPI as a measure of the average change over time in the prices paid by urban consumers for a market basket of consumer goods and services. The department defines inflation as the overall general upward price movement of goods and services in an economy. Well, for you and me, those definitions don't really describe the subtle differences between the Consumer Price Index and inflation. To do that, we need to dig a bit deeper and paraphrase what they have written. The CPI can be viewed as a number used to measure change. In the U.S., the Bureau of Labor Statistics gathers the average prices paid by consumers for hundreds of different items each month. That average is then compared to a reference base period. That base period is actually an arbitrary date that was set by the federal government some time back. We use the average of goods and services from 1982 to 1984 as the reference base period. We've given that period the base value of 100. Now we can calculate the amount of inflation between any two single-year periods simply by using the monthly CPI figures for each of those 12-month periods published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The difference between the two time periods gives you the inflation rate for the 12 months you want. So, for the sake of discussion, let's compare the CPI of January 2000 with that of January 2010. CPI of January 2000 was 168.800, and the index for January 2010 listed as 216,687. To make the calculations, we take the more recent CPI, 2010, and subtract the oldest one, 2000, from it. Then divide the answer by the oldest one. Using our numbers for 2000 and 2010, it would be 216.687 minus 168.800 divided by 168.800, which equals 0.2837. Inflation's always considered as a percentage, so we take that 0.2837 number and multiply it by 100. That makes it 28.37. So, the inflation rate between January 2000 and January 2010 was 28.37%. Doing all the math tells it that between the base period and 2000, we had 68.8% inflation. Well, they already give us the numbers for each month in percentages, so we don't really need to go through all those machinations now, do we? By December of last year, overall inflation was listed at 3.881%. In December of 2022, inflation on the Bureau's charts was 3.974%. Surprise, surprise! Inflation last year was actually 0.093% less than 2022. In other words, between 2022 and 2023, we actually had 0.9% deflation. I didn't know that. We were actually hit with what some economists had predicted: stagflation. Improvise, adapt, overcome. Simplify.